Hi, I'm Allie, a test prep tutor and strategist at Geek. Sentences are the foundation of writing, and this is a grammar topic you simply must know before you take the SAT or ACT. It's true, sentences are the foundation of writing. They're so foundational that you probably don't even think about it anymore. But you need to be really confident in your ability to determine if a sentence is truly a sentence or if it's a fragment or a run-on for the SAT or ACT. This is something that's tested frequently. It's tested in conjunction with other grammar rules. It's just something that you have to know and you need to feel really confident in your ability to do. So let's walk through some definitions before we get started. What is a sentence fragment? Well, like the name implies, it's a fragment or a piece of what would be a sentence. It's missing a required element that makes a sentence a sentence. So without one or more of these elements, we have what's called a fragment. It cannot exist on its own. This is grammatically incorrect. What about a run-on? A run-on, just like the name implies, runs on from what normally would be a regular sentence. So we separate sentences with periods, right? Or sometimes exclamation marks or question marks, things like that. Well, what happens if we just leave off periods and if we just kind of write in all stream of consciousness in one thought? Well, that's a run-on, right? We have to actually separate sentences correctly. Otherwise, they become a run-on. It's important that you can identify both a fragment and a run-on on test day, and you can actually fix these mistakes. So how do you go about identifying what is a fragment, what is a run-on, and what's a regular sentence? It's all about identifying the two key ingredients that are required in any sentence: a subject and a verb. And I know this is going back to really basic grammar, but it's something that can kind of get lost over time as we work on more complicated things. But at the end of the day, a sentence has to have a subject and a verb. And we can't have more than one subject-verb pair without separating it correctly. So otherwise it's a run-on. Let's look at an example. Olivia walked to school today. The subject of our sentence is Olivia. Walked is our verb, right? Because our subject is what the sentence is about, or whoever's doing the action, or whatever is doing the action. It is the subject of our sentence, in this case is Olivia. And then our verb is our action. What is being done, what was done, what is done, any action item in our sentence is going to be our verb. It can also be a helping verb, so we'll get to that. But in this case, it's an action. So Olivia is our subject, walked is our verb. Brandon loves going to the beach. Brandon is our subject, loves is our verb. Tammy is running for student council. So in this case, we have a helping verb in here. So Tammy is our subject, is running is our verb. So our helping verb and then our regular verb. So we're able to identify subjects and verbs here, and that's great. That's really the first step in mastering this topic for the SAT or ACT. It can be helpful to be familiar with the different types of sentences. This can help you to identify, again, what is a sentence on the test, or what might be a fragment or a run-on. You're not going to be asked, what type of sentence is this? But it can be helpful to be familiar with these different types. So let's go through a few of them. A simple sentence has only one subject and verb set. It's a complete thought on its own. The last three examples that we looked at would all be considered simple sentences. Tobin ate the last piece of cake is also a simple sentence. Our subject is Tobin and our verb is ate. A compound sentence has more than one subject-verb set, separated by a comma conjunction or a semicolon. It can be broken up into two separate, complete sentences with a period. So let's look at an example of that. Tobin ate the last piece of cake, so he is dead to me. Tobin ate the last piece of cake, he is dead to me. Okay, so here we have a couple different subject-verb pairs. Tobin ate is our first subject and verb pair. Then we have he is dead to me. So he and is our next subject-verb pair. So we can separate these two with a comma conjunction, in this case so, or and, or but, or. Or we can use a semicolon. We could say Tobin ate the last piece of cake, semicolon, he is dead to me. Or we can say Tobin ate the last piece of cake, period, he is dead to me. So there's generally those three ways that you can separate two complete thoughts or two subject-verb pairs. And on the test, you will never be asked to pick between which one of these is most effective. You're just going to be tested on what's grammatically correct. A complex sentence is a complete thought with a fragment thrown in for fun. It can be broken down into a complete sentence, which is also called an independent clause, and at least one fragment, a dependent clause. Like a real jerk, Tobin ate the last piece of cake. So in this case, we can't say like a real jerk on its own. That's not a complete thought on its own, but it does give more context here, and it is what we call a dependent clause. It's dependent on this normal sentence, this regular independent clause. So like a real jerk would be considered a fragment on the test, but here it's written correctly. This is okay. We're not separating it with a comma conjunction. We're not separating it with a period. We're not separating it with a semicolon. It's just part of the sentence, so we're good to go. On test day, it's really important that you're able to identify if something is a sentence and it's correct, or if it's a fragment, how to fix that, or if it's a run-on and how to fix that. So make sure that you're practicing identifying these different types and also how to fix them, how to fix these mistakes, because on the test, ultimately that's what they're looking for, is your ability to fix grammatical errors. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're looking for more content like this, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and you can also find us at testgeek.com/blog.